State of the franchise is back, and boy, we have a lot to talk about with the state of the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, all eyes on Trent Williams, Brandon Aiyuk. What's going to happen? When will it happen? And what will it be? All those different things with both players. So, Jason and I will take a look at that. We'll also, there's other things going on. I think there 88 other players on the 49ers roster right now. So we could talk about some other things as well. But obviously, we'll approach the two major subjects kind of swirling around 49ers land, and then we'll get into all the other stuff happening with the San Francisco 49ers. So drop your spicy sourdoughs in the chat. Smash that like button. Let's get after it. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. What is going down, faithful? What is going down, Mr. Aponte? What are the vibes like over there on the East Coast?
Amazing. Everything's immaculate. Everything's perfect. I don't have anything to complain about at all. No, but the 49ers have been ramping up. There's a game Sunday. They close out week 2 with the national televised game on Fox, which is really, really cool. And it sounds like because the joint practices have been canceled, that you'll see beloved starters get some run as well too. So week 2 is going to be very interesting against the New Orleans Saints. And of course, there's always other things to talk about when we talk about the 49ers.
Has that been confirmed that starters will play?
I think because the joint practices aren't happening, you have to, at this point. So if I'm not mistaken, it might have been Kyle. It might have been somebody else who talked about starters being around and playing. But I would probably, I'm very much a betting man. I would probably say that the 49ers starters need to be out there just a little bit just to start to get things going before the dress rehearsal on the 3rd.
Yeah, it's been an interesting camp because obviously the 49ers have been in preservation mode pretty early on. I think, what was it Kyle said? There was 26, 28 players who missed one particular practice. So that is part of the reason why they canceled joint practices. But both you and I know, Jason, that those joint practices are really invaluable for those starters. Now, you heard Mooney Ward say I'm not pressed at all that they canceled those practices. But from what we've seen, we do know, especially you went to joint practices against the Chargers. I think that was in 2021. I think in 2022, I went to Minnesota joint practices. So we know the energy from joint practices. It's starters versus starters on other teams, and they really get after it. And you can see that also goes to building a callus for the season and just hitting someone that's not the guy that you've been hitting for the last 3 weeks in a row. Changes things a little bit, right? So it is unfortunate that they don't get that, right?
Yeah, and the joint practices have a little bit more spice to it. Think about the Lions and the Giants and how many fights those happen with. And I believe it was the Patriots head coach, Gerard Mayo, who said, if you're a starter and you start a fight, you're not playing. If you're a backup and you start a fight, you are going to play every single snap. We're going to wear you out. And I think that's the message, right? But there's obviously the competition factor. And I'm going against you on the other side, right? And during that Chargers time when I was there, a lot of it was, okay, what wide receiver is going against their best corner? And how does that look out? Right? And, Raheem Mostert's trying to get back, and the Jimmy and Trey thing. All of that stuff kind of plays itself out against competition. And I think that's more important to the time where it comes to, yes, you've been facing a certain amount of people the entire time, but there's always that you have a different helmet on, and I'm going to see you again eventually one way or another if it's possible, that the competition gets lifted a little bit. And those joint practices were essentially going to be the preseason game. But now that that's out,
It's true.
Now you really can't really run those guys like that. You might have to run them for a little bit in this game just so they can get some continuity and some rhythms together.
No, I think that's a great point. I wasn't really even thinking about it like that. I was like, oh, they're probably not going to see much of the starters in this game, but they could treat it potentially like the dress rehearsal. I don't know. It's a situation we haven't approached before with joint practices being canceled. So interesting. Just quickly, what were your kind of first impressions of the first preseason game versus the Titans?
Um, a lot of good things. Things that need to be cleaned up. Things that are a little bit more concerning. The missed tackles thing is back.
Mhm.
That was a little concerning. That's something that's been happening for the 49ers the entire time that they've kind of been under Kyle Shanahan. The special teams thing kind of feels like the 49ers special team found out 15 minutes before kickoff that that's what the kickoff was going to look like. And they said, wait a minute, well, I didn't know that. And that's how they kind of look. Good things. Jordan Mason looks good running the football. Dominic Pooney is a brick wall in pass
Yeah.
pro. Those are really good. But D Winter's missing tackles, Renardo Green giving up catches. Those are things that you kind of want to clean up. And then, of course, the elephant in the room is who's going to play X receiver if Brandon Aiyuk is not there. And spoiler alert, 49er fans, Jawan Jennings cannot play X. That is not his role. So you might be looking at a situation where if worst case scenario, Brandon Ayuk's not here, Chris Conley is starting at X for you. And that might be probably one of the worst case scenarios you could have ever envisioned with this Brandon Ayuk thing. So looking at the receiver core, it's very scary. And I think it kind of leads into what this title is for this. I mean, look. This is no disrespect to Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings does a great job. The 49ers have done a great job identifying him. He fits in perfectly with the culture. He is not an X receiver. You cannot put him outside the numbers, and you can't get him open against good coverage. If you use him, and we saw this, and Brad, we're in the same group chat where I've given film. I don't just like talk out of my like whatever, man. He needs to be in a condensed split closer to the line to get to the spots that he is able to get to, that they know he can get to. He can't play outside. He doesn't have the speed. I would argue there's
He's a
two or
great
three.
big slot, right?
Yes, there are 2 or 3 linebackers on his team faster than Juwan Jennings. That's not his game. Juwan Jennings is there on third down and is supposed to be against guys that he can beat, and he wins at the catch point. Separation, if we're talking about wide receivers, I'm super scared. You're looking at Ronnie Bell, you're looking at Chris Conley, Trent Taylor. All this talk about separation, and now all of a sudden, you're okay with that? You're okay now with, yeah, we're going to run Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley, Trent Taylor, Robbie Chosen. Come on. Now, doesn't this make this more scary about Brandon Aiyuk and the fact that Ricky Pearsall hasn't played and we haven't seen anything of Jacob Cowing? Like, the depth right now in this wide receiver core scares the hell out of me. And the way that they're able to get guys open with this scheme is what it is. But individual skill set, Juwan Jennings can't play X. He can't play X. It's impossible to ask that of someone who just isn't capable of it. And it's not a knock at Juwan. He's good at what he's good at.
Absolutely. And like when you watch Jawan all throughout training camp, he's a contested catch guy, right? He's kind of like, you kind of look at him and the way that Brock targets him, it's kind of like a 5 in basketball who's posting up in the paint, and you throw it up to that guy and you put it in the right spot. Jawan's going to be able to go up and high point it, right? He's got those long arms. He's got great length. He has a really good ability to high point those catches. That's what we saw in training camp. We're not seeing natural, like Jawan isn't a natural separator. He's more get the ball to Jawan, whether finding him open in a soft spot in his own or scheming him open on natural rub routes or things like that, or quick outs and things that you can just bang the ball on him. And then you let him do what he does, which turns on the yak and starts plowing forward. But when we talk about a X wide receiver, you're talking about a difference maker. You're talking about a speed threat on the outside going up against your number one cornerbacks. And the same thing that you're talking about, you saw that in training camp. And that is a perfect segue into the topic of the video, was basically who's more important to the Niners' success, Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk. And I believe you wrote an article on this on Niners Nation, which is kind of what sparked this. And I saw it and I quote tweeted it, and I was like, man, you would have asked me this question for the last 3-4 years, I would have stamped Trent Williams without even a hesitation. But after being at camp and seeing that Trent wasn't there and Aiyuk wasn't there, if you followed my coverage, one of the things that I talked about quite a bit were coverage sacks. Because Brock was getting protection, he wasn't getting open receivers. And so I said, out of, like, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but out of any year, Brandon Aiyuk has closed that gap more than I even anticipated. And I might be a huge BA stan, but I couldn't believe how his absence was felt at training camp this year. And I think that's why hopefully he will be coming back this year, because I think the 49ers understand that we need this guy.
Real quick, the parallels between the two end at the fact that they both play for the 49ers and they're both looking for a new contract. Okay? That's where the parallels end. Trent Williams isn't one of the best left tackles in the world. He's the best left tackle in the world.
100%.
Probably of all time.
I've
can make that argument.
For like 3 years. I've been saying we're not talking about the best tackle in the game right now. We're talking all-time player.
Yeah. We are talking about the best ever. Right. And we are talking about a discussion with Brandon Aiyuk in which it's argued that he's a top 10 guy. I think there's people that would argue against that. I wouldn't be one of those people, but someone will. And there's still a discussion that needs to be had about that. However, let's talk about this. Obviously, the correct answer is both. Obviously. That's the correct answer. Okay.
Well, I think probably the correct answer, too, is Trent is Trent. You need Trent out there. That's the guy. That's the dog.
Yeah.
What my point is that the gap that used to be this large is a little bit closer than I think we want to give credit to.
That's literally that's literally where I was going with this. The correct answer is Trent. But when I see it's Trent by a mile,
right,
I have issues with that. And here's why. Every single complaint that came out of that Super Bowl and came out of certain times was about separation, was about separators at the position. And sure, we drafted Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing, and we think the world of them. Expectations, what you know, are two very different things. Now, here we are, and Brandon Aiyuk's still not here. Ricky Pearsall hasn't taken a snap because all of a sudden now he's getting injuries when he was really he was never injured, like when he was out there in college.
Right. I think he went 5 seasons in college
without missing a game.
Yeah.
Jacob Cowing is somebody who still hasn't even seen the field yet. I think you shouldn't change your expectations of what you think they are. But we're talking about a football team that has realistic goals now. Right now. Trent Williams, the drop-off from Trent Williams to anybody is drastic.
Right.
Anybody. Let alone Jalen Moore. Poor Jalen Moore. I feel bad. Jalen Moore's not as good as Trent. Yeah. So's neither any other left tackle in the game. But the idea...
Go ahead.
But the idea that Brock Purdy's in line for this huge contract, and you think that has nothing to do with Brandon Aiyuk, is crazy. Now, separators, guys you can trust. If you can look me dead in the face and say, I don't care about Brandon Aiyuk not being a separator because we have Chris Conley, Robbie Chosen, Trent Taylor, Ronnie Bell, Danny Gray, and I'm fine with that. If you can look me dead in the face with that, I will respect your opinion. And also, respectfully, that scares the dog shit out of me. Respectfully, again,
Right.
if one of these guys turns into, whatever, Robbie Chosen off the street, Trent Taylor off the street, they would have no shot at this 53-man roster if everybody else wasn't injured. When we went into this offseason, we said Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Jennings, whoever the sixth guy is, this is probably the deepest room the 49ers have had.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you're looking around like, yeah, it's week 2 of the preseason, but we haven't seen this from anybody. Brandon Ayuk's not here. We know what Deebo and Jawan is. And again, Jawan is not an X receiver. Sorry, guys. Hate to break it to you. It's impossible to run him as an X receiver all the time. But now the gap has closed. And that's exactly what Brad was saying. It's Trent. It's Trent. 100%. It's Trent. But Jawan Jennings playing X all year, that's scary. And that's not a slight at Jawan Jennings because he has a defined role on this team. But that is scary. It limits what the 49ers have to do. They have to give the ball more to Kittle, to Deebo. You've got to draw it up for everybody else now, as opposed to Brandon Aiyuk making it easier for all those things to happen organically.
Yeah, and being at training camp this year, and Jason, as you know, and you've seen yourself, you've seen Brandon Aiyuk be the best player at training camp the past 2 years that he's been out there. Now, he wasn't out there, and that really was one of my biggest takeaways. Obviously, we understand the saga that is going on and kind of captivated all of NFL media, not just our little bubble of 49ers, creators and reporters and fans and things like that. This is a national story that has been ongoing. But if you're talking strictly what you see on the field, man, you felt the absence of Brandon Aiyuk, and I felt like no more did you feel that on 8-7 day when you had all the alumni out there, Jed York's out there watching, and at that time it was like the peak drama of BA being traded, and the entire energy of practice was just off. You can tell when you've got a good energy practice, a low energy practice, high intensity walkthrough. Like we can tell that almost by walkthroughs of what kind of energy the practice is going to bring. And on 8-7, amidst all the Aiyuk trade drama at its highest peak, the energy was palpably off. And so was the offense as a result. And it was just like, I walked away from that practice like, man, if the San Francisco 49ers do not have Brandon Aiyuk or someone at minimum capable of being Brandon Aiyuk, this offense might struggle quite a bit, because it was crazy watching Brock Purdy drop back into a clean pocket. You had, Dominic Pooney, we've already talked about. He's shown phenomenally in pass protection.
Looks great.
Looks great. McKivitz looks like he's taking a step. Jalen Moore.
Stop saying nice thing about Colton McKivitz. Stop saying nice thing about Colton McKivitz. The funny
thing is that I finally said something nice about him on the timeline, and he had a bit like his down day was the day after. I was like, oh, come on, McKivitz, man, I was just hyping you up, dog.
You keep forgetting the rules. You can never say anything good about him, even if he is improving.
I forget the rules, but to his credit, he was able to bounce back. And I would say Colton McKivitz had a strong camp. Jalen Moore had a strong camp. Mm-hmm. I see Tony in the chat. Nick Sakel having a strong camp, which I wasn't anticipating.
Is the offensive line deep, Brad?
I think it might be. And that's without like three, like that's with Brendel in and out. That's with Feliciano, who's been hurt for half the time, and Burford, who's out half the time. And we're out here talking about how Brock Purdy has all the time in the world to throw, but he has nowhere to throw to. And so that's kind of the genesis of the topic is who's more important to the Niners' success? It's always going to be Trent. He's the best player in the world right now. But Brandon Aiyuk not being on the field has proven, how much of an importance he is, right? Because you remember that tweet that he put out before last year, talking about being the fourth option on the offense. And it's like, I don't think he is the fourth option. Like you put, I mean, yeah, you only get 105 targets. I think it was 75 receptions, nearly 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns receiving. You're not really the fourth option. And then you compound that into the way he pulls coverage away, the way he's able to take the top off of a defense, the way he pulls safeties with him. You start to realize, like, damn, this dude really has a massive impact to this offense. And without him, like, listen, Deebo Samuel, this was the best camp we've seen of Deebo Samuel since probably that 2021 year. Deebo on fire, looked great. But even Deebo talked about it. He's like, I never realized how weird it is to be out there without Brandon Aiyuk. Normally it's the opposite. Normally I'm the one off the field and it's BA having to play without me. He was like, it's different. It's completely different. I took it for granted. I didn't even realize like how much of an impact not having Brandon Aiyuk out. Deebo told us, and you could see it. And so that's why I am at least hopeful that Brandon will return to the San Francisco 49ers with a contract. I think we're just kind of waiting this situation out. But I think in part of why we are here after all the trade talks is because they looked themselves in the mirror and they said, damn, we have exhausted every potential trade option and no option are we better than with Brandon Aiyuk here, regardless of everything that's gone down.
A few things, Brad, and I don't want to step on anything that you said because I think again that's very insightful. What did BA do when Deebo wasn't there? And I have a hard time with this question because did we not watch the Cleveland game in which it was raining? The Cleveland Browns were very good. Brock Purdy wasn't playing his best, but on that last drive, the one person who's catching the football and running down the field was Brandon Aiyuk. And if the kicker makes the kick, you're all saying Brock Purdy just led a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
But, what did BA do when he wasn't there? Okay. Another one I see, Brandon Aiyuk had a slow start to the season. Brandon Aiyuk had 2 touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers and literally plowed the road for Christian McCaffrey to score a touchdown on a block.
He caught a pass against the Rams, and I think he injured his shoulder.
He injured himself in one series, the biggest series, Invader 49er, the biggest series. When are you guys supposed to show up? Do you want him to do that in the first series, or do you want to do it when they have a chance to win the game, which they did, and Jake Moody missed the kick? Sorry that he did it in the biggest series on the biggest moment. I really don't understand that discussion. That one is insane to me. He literally was the one driving that drive. If the kicker makes the kick, Brock Purdy gets a game-winning drive. He was great on that series, and it was because of Brock Purdy. I don't get how you can say one series. It was the biggest series. If he was awful all game and showed up right away when you needed him to, how many 49ers players have we praised for doing just that?
Didn't BA have a catch on that final drive too? I'm pretty sure.
He had 2 of them. He had a big one where he literally brought them on the other side of the field.
Yeah, he had a really big catch on that final drive.
How are we going to say one series? How are we going to say what's not good? The biggest series? What?
It's just not a good game.
Tom Brady had one good series against the Rams in the Super Bowl.
What? But they still had a chance to win the game at the end, right?
Yeah.
That's the craziest part. And even too against Minnesota, they were with the defense not, really playing and all that kind of stuff. And They were still putting themselves in a position to at least compete in that game. Obviously, got away from them with the 2 interceptions, which appeared after Brock Purdy got concussed. But again, that's nuance, Jason. That requires looking at the game in its totality and understanding why things occur the way they occur. But the bottom line is that Brandon Aiyuk, if he's not on this roster, you don't have anyone right now, at least that we can see, who's going to replace 1,400 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns and 75 catches. Because although Pierce Saul and Jacob Cowing do look like quality prospects, I think both of those guys have plenty of potential. Yeah. But we also know this, Jason. The best ability in the NFL is availability. And when you're a rookie who's already in a blender when it comes to picking up an offense under your new surroundings, all of these different types of things, I don't think you can just bank on the fact that although he was a first round draft pick, that he can just come in and pick up the 1,400 receiving yards that BA leaves over. And so I think that's why we're talking about the importance of Brandon Aiyuk, is because not only does he help Brock Purdy, he helps the offense, he opens up the running game. We understand what he does from a blocking perspective. So I think we know that Brandon Aiyuk is important, right? And I think at this particular stage, if you are saying Brandon Aiyuk is not important to this offense, then I think it's not even worth arguing. It's just more of like, all right, agree to disagree. But I think you and we both spend a lot of time watching the tape and breaking it down and really trying to understand. So it's just one of those things, right? You wash your hands like, all right, you don't have to agree, but we know that what the truth is.
Real quick, just because I keep seeing it being brought up, the 2 games in which Brandon Aiyuk was the most open in terms of beating man coverage and beating was the Christmas game against the Baltimore Ravens and the Super Bowl. But don't let a narrative jump in front of what's actually happening on the field, Brad. Don't let a narrative, beat what actually happened, like what's actually going on, how he's actually getting open. He's open, but he's not throwing himself the ball. This would unlock a larger discussion. But hey, he was locked up in the Super Bowl, Brad. And we gotta, you just gotta let him go. He was locked up. All right, man. It's just like, okay, man. I get it. We're all upset that the 49ers didn't get it done. We're all upset that, the offense didn't look the way it did. But to say that Brandon Aiyuk was locked up, it's just like, okay, man, you're just either running with a narrative, don't know what you're looking at, or just, didn't watch it all. Didn't happen. Just that's impossible. It just didn't happen. Like it did not happen. But hey, whatever.
Whatever. Tulio, who's been a member of the channel for 10 months, says Trent is a big part of CMC's
and any running back. And
he's
any
a big
running
part
back.
of the entire offense's success. Mm-hmm. It's Trent Williams.
Trent Williams is the best left tackle in football.
Yes.
Is the best left tackle in football. Brandon Aiyuk's not the best wide receiver in football. Those parallels, they do not exist. Yeah, that's it. And again, when you're talking about what this offense needs, and then you start to think about what this offensive line would look like, regardless if they have an upgraded right guard with Dominic Pooney, at least in pass pro, what it looks like. I think he can clean up some things in the run game. It's tough when you think about that, because when you look at that and you think about the way that people look at this 49ers offensive line with Trent Williams there, imagine what you're thinking, without him. And I think that's kind of always been our thing.
Yeah. And, I think part of it too is obviously the urgency. This is a huge year for the 49ers, right? It's now or never, right? Like, we understand Brock Purdy. Like, if you are annoyed by the Brandon Aiyuk saga and the Trent Williams saga, I would just say use this as your primer for potentially an interesting negotiation with Brock Purdy. Because I would imagine if Brock Purdy goes out and duplicates or has a better season than what he did last year, which I do anticipate he will, you're talking about resetting the quarterback market in general. So you think this negotiation with, BA might be a little tense? There's a chance that we're headed for this yet again next offseason with Brock Purdy, because I would imagine his agent will be trying to get every single thing that he's worth. And so we could see ourselves in this situation again. So it's just important to know. And then again, what if we, I don't even want to look that far ahead, but could you imagine what the discourse will be if we got this late into this process with Brock being out and watching the fan base divide over Brock being selfish versus Brock being deserving of what he got, and just every day. Oh, dude, it would be insane, absolutely insane.
None of the optimism around this team is possible without the fact that Brock Purdy has shown what he's shown at quarterback. Right? Hey, we can still win games without Brandon Aiyuk. We, possibly could still win games without this defensive player. All of that is based on the idea that Brock is really good. And I think a lot of people, a lot of 49 fans believe that. But again, when the money starts to dictate, hey, we can't keep this guy, we can't keep that guy. And again, I'm not speculating on who we can and can't keep because I'm terrible with the cap. I'm just talking about expectations, right? When you're getting $55, $60 million, whatever it's going to be, because Brock deserves the going rate because he's better than a lot of quarterbacks that have been getting far more, and and I think will be getting much more as the market rises. The expectation is that carry us now, carry us a little bit more. Whatever deficiencies we have on the other side of the ball, whatever deficiencies we have on our side of the ball, it's time for you to mask those things. It's time for you to put a band-aid on them with your improvements. So I think that's where Brock is. But I think, again, none of the optimism around this team is anybody who's saying it's all right, we can let Aiyuk walk and we'll be fine. It's because Brock Purdy. And, I think that's really more what is got 49er fans okay with the idea. No 49er fans happy. I think every 49er fan would want, obviously everybody back. That's just not the way it works. Nobody's just who cares? Let him walk. But you're okay with the idea because you believe that Brock Purdy's taking a next step and he's going to continue to grow and he's already shown you so much and he's a perfect fit for this offense, everything. So I think a lot of it is the window stays open when the coach and the quarterback are in tandem in the way that they are.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to touch on regarding Brandon Aiyuk, Trent Williams, the ongoing situation? We were joking about this before we started the show. Was typically we get news breaking before we got on, so I was hoping
There's
that
something breaking now?
by us scheduling the show, that was going to be it. That was going to be what tilted it in the direction of getting done. But do you have any other comments on the BA situation, on the Trent Williams situation?
No, there was a report. There was a report today that, again, reports are reports because, there's been, you've been saying, the nickel for every, trade report, you'd be
hella
rich.
nickels.
Right. But out of Pittsburgh is that they want to pay George Pickens #1 receiver money because they believe he's the #1, which, if you believe that report, firmly takes them out of this. And it's just a matter of time now for Aiyuk and the 49ers to get this done. And I think that's kind of where we are at this point as well, too. It was a dirty game. It wasn't always nice, but what is it? The end justifies the means, and I think in this regard, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. But yeah, and then the no movement on Trent thing, I think they'll eventually figure that out as well too. But just the speed of this, right now, you can't run joint practices because you have so many injuries. Might be okay if you brought back Brandon Aiyuk and brought him back and started getting him ready and started moving him around so he could start getting into shape. And the same thing, the offensive line has been, not crazy and it hasn't been super bad, but it'd be real nice to get those guys in there. That would help alleviate a bunch of the injuries that you have.
Yeah, me, I'm a big fan of offensive line continuity, and we the most continuity we've had on the offensive line has been Colton McKivitz, Dominic Pooney, and Jalen Moore up until this point. Obviously, Aaron Banks is still starting at left guard, but he was
That
banged
was
up a little
troublesome.
bit. You know,
That was troublesome.
Banks.
Yeah, a little bit. Like watching the film, like because I had to write an article today for players who need to step up, and I named him.
I agree with that. He was a guy that, like, we know Banks has struggled in previous training camps before, so it's not like it's anything new. But I think heading into a contract year, it's not what you want to see. You want to see Banks kind of take that step forward. And there were multiple practices where you're like, oh, that wasn't a really great practice by Banks. And then seeing the way he started that game was like, oh boy, that was a rough way to start. I mean, first rep of the game, he got completely bowled over, and then on the very next play, he was laid off the snap, and it's just like, damn, like where this is a contract year for him, and I want him to be successful. I want him to go out and have a phenomenal year. I want him to go out and take a step forward. But so far this year, I have not seen the steps forward, and that's where you kind of get concerned. Now, on that first drive, he was able to get it back, right? He was able to continue to play well and, get back on track. But the start of that was kind of like, ooh, like, yee. So I think the 49ers are really experimenting with what they want to do with that interior. And, I've talked about it plenty. That interior is a big question mark based on kind of the consistency that we've seen there. Obviously, we know they just aren't comfortable at right guard. And crazy enough, it took Feliciano and Burford to get injured for what appears the 49ers to find someone they're comfortable with at right guard. And it happens to
Dominic
be
Pooney.
rookie Dominic Pooney, who
Mhm.
is playing well, really
Yeah.
well. Is he perfect? No, he's a rookie, but he's playing beyond a rookie you would expect to play.
And he was a brick wall in college. That's all he was in pass pro. Now, look, obviously you want to see Jeff Simmons and all those guys like play for the Titans and all that stuff,
Right.
but the reputation precedes itself. If
Listen,
he can
I mean, he
improve,
was doing that against Hargrave.
yeah,
He was doing that against Malik Collins in practice. Those are starters, right? We
yeah.
watched all training camp. He was doing it against starters in training camp. So nothing makes me believe that he can't do that against starters.
And if he improves just a little, in terms of run blocking, because I think that was Burford's strength, not pass pro, and I think that's been that position's strength, regardless of who's been playing. So, uh,
True.
yeah, and I just want to say one more thing about Aaron Banks. I just think that this is Aaron Banks' last season as a 49er, and they're gonna have to find a way to plug in left guard next year. I think
My,
he's gonna go sign somewhere else.
my read on the Pooney draft selection was the same thing that Banks was when Lincoln Tomlinson was in
Hmm.
his final year. So I kind of talked about that last night. I'm wondering if Banks is pressing,
Yeah,
understanding that he was in that situation just in reverse. And if he's like seeing that as like, oh crap, I'm in a contract year, Burford isn't in a contract year, that's the year after.
right.
And then he sees them go after and take a guard. Well, where did they put him? They put him at right guard. That's the same thing they did with him as a rookie. Unfortunately for him, he got hurt, so he never really kind of was able to take over that role. I think it was Brunskill who was playing right guard still at that point. So part of me is like, damn, I wonder if he's in his head too much. Like if he is kind of thinking that way, like, dang, this is a contract year. This is a huge year for me. And they potentially brought in my replacement, and he looks phenomenal. And he's playing really well. And he might be playing better than me right now.
Yeah, yeah, and Pooney winning the right guard job is such a W for this offensive line because the offensive line was better when Feliciano started at right guard. And we all know Feliciano has flexibility like Brunskill to play all three interior positions. He's not a tackle. If you decide to run with Banks, let's just say Brendel and Pooney, it's nice to know that you have somebody behind him in Feliciano who, if pressing a duty based on play or injury, you can kind of rely on. So Pooney winning this job and being, the guy who's in the driver's seat for the starter, it really deepens this offensive line. And That's the problem with the injuries that are going on with this team. It's not the starters that are going to be like you're super concerned about. Christian McCaffrey, he's already started to practice. He started today. He should be fine. Going into it's not the starters. It's if one of those starters goes down, your depth at almost every position has now been taken down a peg and a notch because guys are hurt, right? Like in the secondary, Ambry Thomas is out now. Like, okay, like what do we like? And it's crazy to think that like we're lamenting that injury because we almost kind of wrote him off, but at the same time, starters are playing and they're fine. But when those starters go down and the depth has already been chopped down from injury, and now you're getting into guys that you never thought you would be getting into, that's the scary part, I think, more than anything. It has to be less about who's injured as starters and more about what's going on with the depth. The depth is far more pressing right now with the injuries than it is the starters.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen this a couple questions. Does Zakel have a legit shot at the starting job? I think he does. I don't know if that means he will, but I think the 49ers are experimenting with that idea
Mm-hmm.
because what opened my eyes up in training camp was Feliciano was out and Feliciano started rotating with Brendel. And I was like, that's interesting. That because we've watched enough training camps to understand when they're kind of competing. There's a cadence to how they rotate with the ones. And so the second they start doing that, I go on alert. I'm like, okay, this is an interesting rotation. And to me, this indicates competition. Well, at first it was Feliciano. Then Feliciano goes out of practice. And then it's been Zakel who has been taking over that role of kind of rotating with Brendel. And I don't think Brendel had a particularly strong camp either. And I think he's going through some knee issues as well. So he might not be 100%. But after watching Nick Zakel in that game against the Titans, first time at center and really hold his own, I think that the 49ers are open to the idea. I think they are open to seeing what he can do. Now, I think it will take much more. I think it would take Brendel like really taking a step back for them to like be like, all right, we're because Brendel's
They love
paid,
him
right?
and they love him.
That's Forrester's guy. Like that
Yeah.
is Forrester's guy. He brought him here. That's his guy. He pushed for him to start over Brunskill at center. That's his guy. So it would take a lot for Brendel to not start, in my opinion. But I think Zakel is playing so well that I think they're like, this could be interesting. This could be something that we do turn to maybe in the season. Maybe we need to get him more reps. Maybe we need to put him with the starters to see him go up against starters, see how he holds up against the Hargraves and the Collins and the Jordan Elliott's and all those guys in practice and see how he does. And so far, he's done. He's surprised me. I would say he might be one of the biggest surprises of camp so far of this particular offseason. So I saw someone else ask, like, does he have a really strong shot at a job? I'm like, dude, he might have a shot to be a starter at this point. I think he's beat out Ben Barch. You could see that competition happening in camp. He definitely had a better camp than Barch. And the fact that Zakel can play center and guard is also beneficial. So I think he's earned his spot, especially with that play against the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, there's still a ways to go. But as it stands right now, Zakel is trending towards making this roster and being a depth piece and a potential piece who maybe within the season maybe gets some reps. But I don't think they're also like, yeah, let's throw this guy who's never played center before in right now. I think they want Brendel to work out. So I think Brendel will get every shot to work out.
100%. And you still, you're again spot on, and you and I have the same brain, but I think it's going to be Brendel because of Forrester, because of what they like with him with short shuttle. Again, we've talked about this multiple times. You've got to figure out what Brendel is. Was he that guy that you saw as solid as he was in his second full season as starting early on in the season, or Was he the guy at the end of the year that kind of tapered off? And is that more indicative of the play that you're going to get? I think they're going to absolutely give him that shot. But having the idea that Zakelj is somebody who we kind of casted off from this 53 off the rip, like I think before we even got to training camp or anything, and just
he had such a bad preseason last year. Remember against the Raiders, it was just like it's like, oh my gosh, and then he got hurt, and then you're just like, man, how do you make the roster? It's already kind of a deeper room. They draft Pooney, you're like, probably on the outside looking in, but credit to him. He's done a great job.
Yeah. So now that, again, none of this is a bad thing. So when you look at position groups and you're just like, I don't know who to cut, I think the offensive line being one of those groups is probably best case scenario for a position group that has been analyzed, talking crazy about everything the entire time. Right now, that's best case scenario. So if a good football player has to leave because someone else has stepped up and been better than that good football player, then doesn't that make you feel better about the offensive line? And a lot of that has to do with, again, scheme, how you got to get the ball out. We talked about all that, who's open, separators, all that stuff. But the fact that Pooney's already, kind of doing the things that he's done already in college, which is be a great pass blocker and not allow anything, you start to think, okay, we have a baseline as center with Brendel, but if things taper off, we have another option. And then you've got Feliciano, who's your go-to guy in case of injury luck, and poor injury luck. And now he can play all three interior O-line spots. It starts to put the 49ers in a spot where you're like, well, I don't feel as bad about this offensive line. The only part that needs to be locked in is this, if Trent Williams plays, 13, 14 games. I think that is the key to us being not as down on this offensive line as we have been in years past.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy about Pooney. Really happy about McKivitz.
You got to say it lower than that. You said it way too loud.
Oh, so
Colin McKivitz looked good in warm-ups. I can't believe you said that. Oh, why did you say that?
Get this guy out of here.
McKivitz is garbage at everything, even taking out his garbage.
How dare the 49ers not upgrade the tackle position, you bum.
Look, poor McKivitz, right? Like we're looking at this offensive line, and you look around and you're probably like, yeah, that's probably the area that I think 49er fans are a little bit, they're filled with PTSD because of Mike McGlinchey.
Yes.
Right. And now you're the guy replacing Mike McGlinchey and you don't see improvement. So now it's ultimately like you have to make fun of him or you have to talk crazy about him. But he's
hide in plain sight. He literally has a microscope on him because
100%
better or worse than McGlinchey.
Yep.
And so any signs of McGlinchey-esque play,
all
the McGlinchey energy goes straight to a guy who got his first career start against TJ Watt.
The best thing is people will watch the tape and they'll look at it and they'll be watching offensive line and they'll just be looking solely at McKivitz, right? But like Banks will give up a pressure and like Brendel will get rolled over, but they'll be like, "Did you see McKivitz get beat here?" And they'll have like no effect on the play. Like it's just
he actually won his rep. He did all right.
He actually was fine in that rep.
He did good actually. But
I feel bad. Look. I'm not going to talk crazy about anybody who wants improvement from the right tackle. I think,
of course,
we
both want improvement,
right?
Like he has room to improve. He's not a finished product.
If we had our way, we'd have 5 All-Pros on this offensive line.
We'd have 5 Trent Williams.
Yeah, we'd have 5 Trent Williams, right? 100%.
Or 5 Troy Faltanus, whatever you want. Whatever you want.
100%. But at the same time, the McKivitz hate has led to.
I didn't even mean to pull this one up, but look.
McKivitz can't tie his shoe. Exactly. Like it's look, the McKivitz hate has pushed objectivity out of the window. Where I'm not mad at you if you say Colin McKivitz looks bad on this rep because he probably did. But when he looks good on the rep, you're not like, oh, look at this. Like it's everyone rushing to point out the bad without the good and without even saying, hey, there's a chance. And again, I'm not, I'm a betting man. I'm not going to. All right, Brad, this is going to get you pissed. Am I going to bet on Colton McKivitz improving, I would probably take no. But the optimist in me says if he does, this is a good thing, right? Like if I'm putting money down, I wouldn't put money down on that. But my fan optimism is, yeah, this is completely possible. I think we got a super chat too. Hell yeah, Ariel.
Did we? Oh yeah, I missed it. Shout out Lisa.
Here we go.
What about Feliciano at left guard, Pooney at right guard?
Brad,
Man,
sitting down Aaron Banks in a contract year?
I talked about this.
Yeah.
I've talked about this on my channel. I said if Banks continues to struggle, and again, it has to be into the season. I don't see this group or like Forrester and Shanahan making drastic decisions, because I think we've heard John Lynch talk about Aaron Banks's first training camp as a starter. He was like, it was not good. Like he did not have a good training camp, but he just happened to be a gamer, and you put him in the game and he's a better player in the game than he practices. So that's kind of a thing you got going with Banks. So I don't think any dramatic decisions will happen before the season. I think Banks will get every opportunity to start, and it's Banks's job to lose, I believe. So, but I did talk about I could see a situation where they kick Pooney to left guard or Feliciano. It could be Feliciano at this point, because when I said this originally, it was before Pooney locked down a right guard spot. He looks like he's not letting go of that thing. And I think you should keep him there. Like you should keep him there. But that now, what do you do with Burford? What do you do with Feliciano? Burford seems like he's going to just stay at guard. Could he be a left guard? I don't know. I've never seen him on the left side other than playing, I think, left tackle at UTSA. But we know Feliciano can play left guard. So, yeah, you could see if Banks does struggle into the year, Feliciano gets healthy. That's Feliciano's issue right now, right? Is he's been dealing with that knee, I believe, since that's what knocked him out at the Super Bowl. And
sources say that he has two knees.
Oh, sources. That sounded funny.
I love that. When Shanahan's like, oh, he's got a knee, he's got a hamstring. I'm like, well, I was like, doesn't he have two knees? I was like, does he only have one now? I'm like, oh my God, I'm so scared now.
But does he have a Pooney? I mean, all right, that's enough.
Real quick, B. Lawrence says, Jason, when you do a game preview on Niners Nation, you need to post how people can watch and listen to it, TV and radio. The reason that I don't do that is because we have a deal, I believe, with a company to do that in a separate article. So if you look right now on Niners Nation for how you can watch the game on Sunday, I believe it's Mark DeLucci that is the one who wrote, how you can watch it and stream it. So that's why I don't include it in those things, because we have a deal with them to do a separate article just for that, just to promote kind of like what they've got going on.
Yeah. So in regards to the left guard Feliciano thing, I still think it's Banks's job.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit on high alert on Banks so far. Again, in a contract year, you want to see progression, not regression. And so far, felt a little bit of regression through training camp. So hopefully that's not the case.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at what you said at all, Brad. And I'm not.
Yes,
no, I'm not. I'm looking at the comments. The comment section. The comment section's been on fire. The comment section's been on fire. Michael Moody says Jason may not put money on Colton, but he secretly puts money on Moody, and that's that. All right. To keep it light, I will say this, and nobody cares about our fantasy football teams, anything like that. But Scott Fishbowl is a pretty big league for fans and analysts, and it's all for a good cause, which is essentially Toys for Tots. And we all like put money up or whatever for that. That's really why we do it. But kickers in that league, every extra point is worth 3 points.
No.
And every kick, let's just say it's a 44-yarder, you get 4.4. right? Because a 40-yarder is just 4 until you get to 5, right? Like in certain leagues, right? I drafted Jake Moody because I expect this offense to have a ton of extra points and have him putting in 3 points every time on the back end of the 49ers. So, yeah, maybe the tide has shifted. I am rooting for Moody. I was always rooting for him to make all the kicks. Just because I didn't like the kick doesn't mean I want him to fail. I didn't like the pick. It means I want him to fail. But, like, yeah, I'm betting this offense is going to be very good, and I want the kicker of that offense and those extra points to lead me to a Scott Fishbowl championship. So, yeah, I'm putting money on Jake Moody a little bit. Yeah.
That's funny. That's a interesting development, especially.
It is.
What was the Sourdough Sam's video that he got? He paid.
Jake Moody called me a bozo. Jake Moody called me a bozo. Yeah, he paid Jake Moody to call me a bozo on Cameo. I had a friend over the other day, and I was just like, hey, I was like, the kicker hates me or whatever. He called me a bozo, and he was like, no way. I showed him the video, and it's just like, hey, Jason, you're a bozo. Go touch grass. And I'm just like, right before the Super Bowl, I got cooked by the kicker. Like, what is going on?
Dude, that was insane. That was so funny, dude. I can't believe it. Like, and shout out to Sourdough Sam, bro.
Oh, Patrick, man. I love Patrick so much. Honestly, he gave me the heads up the day before, and I was like, yeah, go for it, man.
Dude, that trailer he did for the new shows he's gonna do he's so good. Like, he's so talented. It's insane. Just how creative he is.
Dude, but nobody's messing with him on a production level.
Really, no one, not even close. Robbie says, Brad, how was Banks last year in camp? I didn't feel like it was. I didn't feel this concerned about his play last year. If I can,
Banks.
Yeah, if I can just recollect on vibes, like this was kind of I can't think of any like individual plays, but I definitely was watching, and I definitely didn't have the same feeling that I had this year, if that makes sense. Like, this is the first time where I've been because me, Jason, when it comes to rookies, second year players, I give them leash. So I give them opportunity to make mistakes. I give them opportunities to kind of be not good, because that's just the nature. Not everyone is an all-pro as a rookie as they step into the league. But as you see over time, Diamador Lenore, perfect example, heading into year 4. Heading into year 4, looks like he's going to be an all-pro. But 3 years ago, he didn't look like that.
Lenore, right?
Yeah, Lenore. So hey, Ambry Thomas, I gave Ambry Thomas leash until I had to not give him leash anymore. And then I said, okay,
stop giving him leash. Like, again, like it's not our decision. You're watching them take him off the field.
Right. So I'm always going to give players the benefit of the doubt, kind of the first 3 seasons. But so heading into a contract, that's why I'm putting emphasis on Banks. Heading into a contract year is like, oh, this is the year. Like, this is the year you want to be playing your best ball. This is the year you want to look your most polished. This is the year you don't want to start, your first rep of preseason like he did against a backup. Like, that's just, it's not what you're looking for. And so does that mean that is going to be how it is during the season? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that either. But it doesn't mean I can't have a little bit of, oh, that wasn't what I was hoping to see, right?
Especially at this point in his career. And I think you laid that out perfectly. I'm willing to deal with the bumps and bruises with a rookie or second-year player. And this is a guy that's in a contract year. And I would go on record saying that no matter how Aaron Banks plays this season, that the 49ers are probably not bringing him back and he's going to get paid somewhere else. It's never been...
I think he's probably going to flip over to left guard.
Right. And it's never been the 49ers' plan to pay and extend offensive linemen unless it's Trent Williams.
Unless it's Trent Williams. Other than that, you either are a mid-round draft pick or we
drafted a guy a year before that we feel good about.
Tomlinson with the 5th-round pick. Plug him in.
We feel good about this. Like, we're going to move in this direction, and we think, like, the 49ers are just not built like that. So, again, regardless of how Aaron Banks plays, I doubt that he's going to be here in 2025. But you do expect baseline production. What are the things we can set our watch to? Well, I know that Aaron Banks is going to be there on the field and be durable and have his bumps and bruises, but he's going to be fine, right? Like you're really not going to be able to do better at left guard than the guy that has been there in the system for how many years and has been kind of building up. Now, if I can't set my watch to that, then that scares me now, just a little bit. And again, training camp, preseason, we could look back and laugh at this in week
100%.
one. Yeah, in week one, when Aaron Banks gives up nothing against a vaunted Jets defense,
Plays
like,
great.
right, like just plays fine and there's no
Yeah.
issue, anything like
And
that.
we're like, whew, good.
But the 49ers have two former All Pros, or one current All Pro and a former All Pro in their secondary in Hufanga. Got Fred Warner, who's the best in the world. They got a defensive line in which Javon Hargrave and Nick Bosa run. They've got the best running back in the world. They've got all pros at the wide receiver level. They've got the best tight end in football. And then the offensive line, aside from Trent, is like question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Or like, do we hope they take a leap? And it's crazy to look at every other positional group and say, you have this, 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 and this, and it's just locked in. Like, you know what you have, and yet the offensive line continues to be a point of discussion, and a point of discussion to the point of now even the baseline guys that we have, are we worried that they would taper off? And I think that's scarier than anything, even if we've been glowing about the offensive line because Pooney's going to be there at right tackle, and now the depth with Feliciano, him being somebody who can just jump in and be the Brunskill in a pinch, and maybe, you know, Cole McKivitz improves. Like, I think we've been optimistic about the offensive line.
Yeah.
It's just always the offensive line that's going to be a point of contention and always a talking point because of everybody but Trent.
And the things that concern me with the offensive line is lack of consistency. I think I've been pretty consistent about how important that is to me in evaluating. So when I see a guy like Banks, who's more than capable, we're not questioning his capability. We're questioning at least I'm questioning some consistency that he's shown early. Doesn't mean he can't do it. We've seen great reps. We even on that first drive, you saw good, you saw bad. That's what we're trying to get rid of. I'd rather see mediocre than good bad. Does that make sense? Like when you're evaluating offensive line,
average.
Yeah.
When you say average isn't a knock.
No, that's if you can be average on the offensive line and not get beat, but you're average, like you do your job to the point where you can still execute the play, that's a win.
Average is what a lot of teams would love to have on some of the offensive lines.
100%.
And that's
all we're looking for.
It's baseline. Give me baseline. Give me baseline. So I know how to accordingly move my offense. I know where to run the ball. I know when to do certain things. Give me what I know as opposed to what can be up and down. The consistency is something that I know. Look, 49er fans have every right to complain because they have a team that has been on the doorstep of a Super Bowl. And most of the time when you look at the biggest plays, the offensive line is there, and that's the issue. But man, can it get worse? It can get so much worse. It can get so much worse, I think, in my opinion.
100%. And so that's it. Just consistency. That's all I want to see. Just bridge that gap. And if you can bridge that gap with Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, Brock Purdy, all the weapons that they have, you're going to be a really good offense, right? We've seen Christian McCaffrey win Offensive Player of the Year with a somewhat inconsistent offensive line. Give him some consistency, right? Like give him like all five guys doing the same, like doing what they're supposed to do at every step of the way and not one guy just kind of messing up. That's been the craziest thing with the 49ers is just lack of consistency as a unit. But unfortunately, you can identify singular guys, but I'm still calling it as a unit. I need all five being consistent. Like there's a couple plays that I clipped from that Titans game that I really liked from the offensive line because all five guys, including the tight ends, including the running back, were doing their job and it resulted in a net positive play. And that's what you're looking for. Just do your job. And if all of them, every little piece is doing their job, you're going to be in a good spot to find successful plays. So that's it. That's all I'm looking for. Just be consistent. Just be able to play in, play out, drive in, drive out, play your game, play your keys, do what you need to do. Doesn't need to be Sports Center top 10, done. Like, you don't need any of that. I just need you to do your job. And if you do your job, this team will have a lot of success up front.
Play in the scheme, do what you need to do. And that's the part of the coaching that needs to come into play. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm not going to make sure that we have 7-step drops and we're going to have a ton of,
against TJ Watt.
Against TJ Watt. Yeah. Nah, look, 7-step drops with Colton McKivitz against TJ Watt, right? Like, this is the part. This is the part that we're talking about when it comes to how much coaching, quarterback, wide receiver, O-line play, all of that stuff is all together. All of it's all together. Because if you had 5 All-Pros, then you wouldn't have to worry about, how many steps on the drop, where's the play going to go, what's the timing. It's stand back there, and you build a Madden team of all of the, that's just not how things work. In the construct of how the quarterback has to play in the scheme, what's his skill set? What is he good at? How do we maximize that? How do we maximize this offensive line in the best way that we can? Regardless of who we're going against, we have to find a way to be able to press forward. That's the part that I think a lot of fans have an issue with, because they see the individual talent on the offensive line, but then they hear Forrester and Shanahan say, well, we just want to get guys who are good with the ball in their hands, and we want to make sure that we get them the ball. And there has to be a bit of a middle ground when it comes to, yes, that's true, but yes, also an offensive lineman who could block for half a second longer or is better against certain people, that'll help as well. There's got to be a happy medium, and I don't think the 49er fans have been happy with that, because the biggest moments and the issues that happen in the biggest moments tend to come down to offensive line, which affects quarterback play and affects the timing of the offense.
Game is won and lost in the trenches, Jason. That's how it goes. Any other topics that you want to hit on today before we get out of here?
No, thank you guys, man, for joining. I get a little passionate, but I care. It's because I care. It's not because I don't want to be the guy that's just like, well, who cares about like what's going on? I care. I care just like you guys care, and we all have good opinions, and everybody has valid places that they're coming from with their talking points and everything as well too. So appreciate you guys for being in the chat and being able to add so much to it, and giving us more talking points, because otherwise we'd just be spinning our wheels talking about reports from a dog and Cam Marino and
man, brutal.
Yeah, so thank you guys for making us talk about
a dog account. He was right about the Steelers. It just didn't come to fruition like
100%
he anticipated.
He's got to take the L, and when it's done, expect me to be completely petty on Twitter, and I'm not really going to get on him too much because he's never really done anything to me. I am going to get on.
He also owns his L's. That's what I do.
No, he does.
About him. He owns his L's.
No, he does. I am going to get on the 49er fans that are like, I can't believe you're not believing Ricky, and Ricky has been, and Ricky. Wipe your mouth, bro. Are you kidding me, man? Like, bro, it was insane how many people were talking crazy defending this man like it was a man, like it was your dog in the crib. Like, those are the people that I'm going to make sure I pull everything back up and say, simping for another grown man is crazy. All you got to do, is come to your own conclusion, bro.
I can already imagine your bookmarks are crazy right now. And you got all the
Oh my God. And real quick, and Nigel asked, how's Aponte's shoe game? Brad, what you thinking?
Phenomenal. It's
phenomenal. Don't let me be.
I'm trying to pick up tips from you. Like my shoe game, like I just started getting into this last year. Aponte showed up light years ahead.
Bro, every single trip we've taken, right? Every
trip.
time I open up my big thing, right? And you're like, how did you get all those sneakers in there? And I'll open up my back pocket, my book bag, and there'll be 2 more pairs in there. Let me just say this.
And you be pulling out joints I've never even seen before. I'm like, damn, like, oh my God, wearing those? Like, that's kind of even like
George Kittle would never be able to look me in the eye and say that I was not. I would be like, what? I would have been there, and I would like, what about me? Say something about me. No way.
You would have stuck your foot in the air. Like, what do you think about these, Kittle?
Bruh, my walk to the store sneakers are fire. Like, stop playing with me, man. The only thing that I've really built in this life, and the great things that I have like in front of me, are my daughter and how great she's growing up and everything, and my sneaker game. That's pretty much it at this point.
Spicy shoe rotation on point. No, that's not one lie detected there, dude. That was pretty funny though. Kittle had time. He was a little fiery. I kind of like fiery Kittle,
bro. And then he's calling out people's shoes and things. I'm like, damn, bro. I would have. One day I'm pulling up in the Space Jams. One day I'm pulling up in the black toe ones. Another day I'm pulling up in like every single day. If I ever get credentialed, that's probably more important than reporting on the spot on the 49ers to me. Is being able to put that shit on and have people look at me and be like, yo, he doesn't dress real bad.
See, this is how I know I've transitioned into that world, is because when camp came around, I was like, damn, I haven't bought any new shoes in a while. Like I've started to build a small collection, but I was like, damn, I didn't have any new ones to show off. Like now I brought out the pair that I got for the Super Bowl. I only wore those twice. I freaking love these things. They're not super flashy or anything, but I love them. But yeah, I was like, that was a huge emphasis. I was like, damn, what shoes am I gonna wear? I gotta come correct in some form or fashion. But yeah, I'm definitely on the hunt too. I got
your kick game is fire too. Stop playing, man. You're being right now. You're just being humble, like you always are. Your kick game is fire. When we look around,
picking up.
No. When we look around on the beat, at times, unfortunately, there's guys that just don't care, and I completely understand that because none of that matters or whatever.
Well, it's dog days of camp. Like I understand that point of it too.
Yeah.
Like, right. It's like you're just trying to get in, get out. Some people put emphasis on different things. But it is what
I look at our guys that are a little bit more in our age group, and I'm like, yeah, come on, man. Like y'all gotta,
That's fair.
y'all gotta, Matt Miyoko don't care about that. Matt Miyoko's there. Matt Miyoko, what he's there for?
Come out of Birkenstocks, no one would blink an eye.
He's there for work, bro. You know what Matt Barrows is there to do? They're there for work.
With white ankle socks, no one cares.
I need the guys in our age group.
That's
to
fair.
really put it on. And again, I don't judge anybody for their styles and everything. But when Kittle's talking about that, he's not talking about the older group of guys. And Matt Miyoko's not old. I'm just saying, like, we're talking about the guys in our group. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, the next generation, right? The next way.
Right. Yeah. Don't let me get in there because they're gonna be like, yo, like, man, you really gonna get those messed up in grass? I'm like, hey, watch out, man. Like, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about
it. Brad need to rock the Crocs. I've actually never owned a pair of Crocs. Do you?
Me neither. I wish. No. I
slides guy.
I'm such a thought. I just do the
Nike I'm slides. Slides guy. Same thing. Like I've been slides with socks for a long time. Slides guy for the most part. Shoe game. It's coming up. We got some room to work. But I think I need that made. What's funny is I've seen multiple beat reporters talk about the shoes, or even Good Morning Football talked about it. It got everyone reevaluating their shoe game, which is low-key hilarious at the end of the day.
When we go to the combine, what am I saying? I'm like, yo, I like those. Like, even I'm like looking, like when we're out, like, and we're doing media, I'm like, yo, look, he got that on. Like, sometimes if look, I'll tell you this, the greatest compliment in the world, if somebody walks up to you and they're like, yo, nice sneakers, better than anything that you could ever say to me about my work with the 49ers.
See, I never realized that until I stepped into the world, and I think it was the Bread 4s had just came out, and I had just got them, and I was like at my son's like flag football game, and some dude who had some nice ass kicks on was like, "Hey, bro, those shoes are fire." I was like,
"That's it."
I was like,
That's
oh shit,
it.
that's what that feels like.
That's literally like
I was like,
when a woman.
all right.
It's
I was
literally like
okay.
when a woman walks up to another woman and they're like, "I love your dress and you're so pretty." Like literally, that's the bro code way of doing it, bro. I had a guy at the NFL draft. I was wearing the Jordan 9s, the ones that he wore in Space Jam,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Bro, those are fire." I was like, "Hey man, you just made my day." Like that's all we do it for. Like literally at this point, like women like to look at men's shoes, but they're not gonna say anything about it. But
as long as they're not musty, they're fine.
that's what I'm saying. Like you can't be wearing those cooked Air Force Ones that are choked with the gray laces. Like stop. Like please. When did we get to a point that wearing Air Forces only meant that you could wear them when you run them into the ground? Show some respect, man. Please.
Oh my gosh. Good times.
Yeah, man.
Never a dull moment around this team at all. Whether it's press conferences, whether it's contract sagas, trade sagas, we always have something to talk about, right? That there's never, and like what do you say? You say the 49ers are the real content. Like you have a bar.
We're not the content creators. They are.
The 49ers
we're not. We Brad and I and everyone else and 49er fans all around the world. We are fishermen in a boat. And we are sitting in the boat and the fish are flying into the boat out of the water. And we have an oar. And you got to hit 1, hit 2, hit 3 because the other are jumping out. That's what the 49ers create the content. We're not content creators. We are not. Other teams, they got to really create content. Us, we just got to kind of sit and just wait for things to happen. Yeah.
Just reacting to things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always a good time. No Brandon Aiyuk news. I guess Brandon Aiyuk was at practice again today. So that's
what did he drink? Did he drink Gatorade today or did he drink water?
Did you see Matt Barrow's tweet thread yesterday?
Everyone is doing a great job with all this about what he's wearing and everything. I think that's the way we should be talking. I mean, those guys should be talking about it at this point because there just is no real news. Everything's being reworded and repurposed. Yeah, I can't trust a woman either. Too Vizzy 408, man. You cannot trust you can't trust a woman either, girl. Look. If you come to a day and you pull up and you got those cooked Air Force Ones, we're gonna see how this day goes. Because if I really like you, I'm gonna take them, and I'm either gonna toss them out because they're not savable, but I'm gonna show you the. So for anybody that needs a quick remedy about your Air Force Ones and your laces, by the way, there's this thing called the pink stuff. It's almost like this jar like of just pink, like, and you can use it to clean your kitchen, clean your bathroom, whatever it is. You take a toothbrush on these Air Force Ones and you put the pink everywhere on the laces, all over the sneaker, everything, right? And then you wash them in a normal washer, right? You don't have to do that. That's fine. That can come off easily.
Hurt me right here.
Yeah, we can get that off though. You can get that off.
Oh,
God. I'll give you a remedy for that too. But for anybody that's looking to clean white sneakers overall, doesn't have to be Air Forces. They're not going to make them brand new, but God, will they make them look so much better. Literally throw that pink stuff all over the laces, everything. Put them in the dryer, in the washer, and then air dry them in the sun. Take them and let them air dry. And when they're cooked, they're better. They look way better. That pink stuff is crazy. So there's your little, you could save a girl's life.
Is that what it's called? Is it
cold? The pink stuff. Cold?
Bro, like, you need to clip that. And you need to send it to them, and you need to be like, "Hey, let's run a sponsorship." This is a perfect opportunity.
I can't wait till they're like, "Who and what and why?" Man, get out of here!
Man, get out!
Man, get out of here! Look what it's called. Look, you think I'm capping? Oh, it says DoorDash. Oh, whoa, let me go back.
I was like, "Oh, you got DoorDash coming?"
No, because it's you can order the pink stuff on DoorDash.
Can you?
Yeah. But look. It's that tub right there on the right. And you can use the rest of it. You can use the rest of their products to I guess, take care of your bathroom and your kitchen. But that tub is you take the toothpaste and the toothbrush and you just rub it all over your Air Force Ones and then you throw them in there. They're not going to look how they looked earlier, But they'll look at damn. They'll even clean the laces. I just don't know why y'all let this happen.
I just don't know why you'll let those Air Force Ones get fried. But hey, happens. It happens, I guess, right? So, but nonetheless, good show. Chat was on point today. Hilarious.
Hold up, real quick. Let's just before we go. Ariel says, "I only rock black Air Force Ones." Ariel, I know what type of time people on black Air Forces are on. Okay,
so he's basically saying he's a menace to society.
So Deebo Samuel showed up to Philly in all black, wearing black Air Forces, and Deebo's wearing black Air. And you don't think that Deebo's gonna score 4 touchdowns? Ariel, when we link up again, man, no black Air Forces, man, no way.
No. Pull out the white ones. We'll keep
the black Air Forces. The black Air Forces gotta have everybody looking crazy at me.
Everyone sees the black Air Forces, they're like, damn. All right. it's either going down or I'm gonna walk the other way.
Oh yeah, I would cross the street. If I saw somebody walking with black Air Forces toward me, I'm moving across the street. Like I'm just like, all right, man, I can't trust this guy, man. Can't trust this guy.
Tap in with State of the Franchise for all the sneaker in and out. Jason's got you. You already know because he's already laced up. So he's helping me out. He's helping you out. We now know how to clean our shoes so they don't look fried.
White shoes. Yeah, please just don't let them get too fried. That's the point. Like when you get to a point where you're just like, all right, now they're gonna get clean, you can save them. But you can't save them when they're on a deathbed.
That's advice right there. You cooking up anything else on Niners Nation? Anything else the rest of the week? Was it Thursday, Friday tomorrow?
Yeah, Friday tomorrow. Probably just recapping the survey of Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk. For the most part, I would say that it's probably a 99 over like 1 vote. How many pairs of sneakers? Pietro, close to at least 95.
Seriously?
Yeah, I can't wear all of them. You know, like I have a rotation of like ones that I wear, but I can't wear them all the time. But I've been collecting shoes since I've been 19, and I've got sneakers that are.
I guess if you have sneakers that are like decades old,
yeah, and you know, I have sneakers that have been they're older than some of your kids. You know, so yeah, but yeah, I don't even know. That's not a flex. I feel like that's more of a childish complex more than anything, and it makes me yeah, like, and it just makes me look like, what were you doing, like spending all that money on that? You could have, you know, put the money in the stock market, do that, do this, like do that, like what the, like, you know what I mean? Like, why did I spend it on Jordans and LeBrons and Nikes and Adidas? Like, whatever. Now I just feel bad about myself.
Now I'm just getting depressed. I think I probably have like 10. Yeah, I think I have about 10. I got Uggs in rotation. Shout out Uggs, bro.
Yeah,
game changers. People saying I got to get on the Crocs. My kids have Crocs. I might dabble, but again, I'm a OG slides and socks kind of a guy. That's my vibe. When it comes to just,
that's what I'm saying. Everybody's like, "What's on your feet?" Bro, I don't really move around. I don't really move around. Like if I got to go to the store right now, like I'm gonna just be like in my socks and slides, like, and keep it moving or whatever. Yeah, but yeah.
Michael said Jason would be a millionaire if he didn't buy shit.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I would have been something. Oh, like everybody's like, what did you do with your 20s and 30s? And then people had kids and they have families, and I'm just looking around and I'm like, I got a lot of sneakers.
I got some fire ass kicks. That's what I got. Well, you do have a daughter too. Oh, this is a good one. You know, wintertime, catch me outside. I'm in Uggs and a man bun all day, every day. I do not care. So I'm stuck in that offensive lineman style. Like I'm a at heart offensive lineman where we don't really care, but I'm trying to care. So I'm kind of like stuck in the middle. So I still have those O-line tendencies. But yeah, we're trying to get better. We're trying to improve. We're trying to, year by year, try to step our game up because you know the vibes.
If you go to a divorce table and they're like, "What are your assets?" I'm like a PlayStation 5, a MacBook, and 95
95
pairs of
pairs
sneakers.
of Jordans and Nikes.
Are you declaring these as assets? I'm like, well, what else would they be?
Oh, they're like, actually, the declared value on all these is about 20 grand. So
I'm like,
just
oh, that's not bad. I'm like, hey, I just need to keep the PS5. Like, you ever see like that meme of like when a guy gets kicked out the crib and he just takes the video game system and he takes nothing else?
Then like, that's all I need. I'm out of here. Give me my
I'll take my laptop. I'll take my PS, and I'm coming back for the sneakers in a little while.
I saw you playing PlayStation on your laptop the other day.
Because Avery's cooking me and she's taking my TV. Yeah, remote play. I was doing that. Yeah, I was. So Avery watches Snoopy on my TV when she's here. I wanted to finish up Spider-Man 2 and do other side missions, so I did remote play on the MacBook. So it's pretty cool.
You wear them to work; they're tax deductible.
And yeah, I have to. When I do my taxes, they always ask like, what were your clothes money? I'm like, oh, the money that I spent on like my suit jackets, whatever it is for like media events, and then all the rest of the stuff. So yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of works. But it's just crazy when someone's like, what are your assets? And you're like, PS5, MacBook,
5 pairs of shoes,
and a lot of sneakers. You just start looking around like. Man, have I really accomplished anything like at all? Like in my entire life?
I got a sick ass sneaker collection, man. I gotta beat the crap out of your shoes. I got you.
You go on a date with a girl and she's like, "What do you bring to the table?" I've got 95 Jordans, girl. I'm never gonna run out.
You play Madden? You play 2K?
I'm like, look, I can play PlayStation on my MacBook, girl. I was like, you want me to keep telling you what else I can offer? And shout out to Martin. He's like, can we get more live streams? Like,
did someone say that?
Yeah, he's like, and I think people like this part of us because it's just us talking. Like, we're not trying to, because look, we can disagree about football stuff until the cows come home, and I think that's the crux of the argument and everything. But right now, like, this is just us being open and just talking about ourselves. But yeah, just imagine being on a date. Like, what do you bring to the table, shorty? I've got Jordans from every decade, like a ton. Any type you want to do. If you want to invite me to a wedding, I can still wear the Jordans and it'll come off clean. And if I need to, I can play PlayStation on my MacBook. So what do you say to that?
If you're really trying to get serious, I got you. Oh my gosh. So that's hilarious, dude. But I think that's a good time for us to get out of here.
That's it. Knock it off. Yeah, let's get out of here before they keep us a little bit longer
here. Hopefully we'll get some resolution to the Brandon Aiyuk situation, the Trent Williams situation, everything in between. Until then, like, I think one of the positives, though, Jason, before we get out of here, is like there's no really updates left, right? It's either he signs or he gets traded. That's really, he's been at practice. Check that one off the list. What's left, right? It's either he signs or gets traded.
Or, this is the funny part about the repurposed, reworded reports. Well, it's a chance that he could be with the Steelers. The 49ers are trying to keep him. They may let him play on the 5th-year option, or they could be looking to extend him. Well, welcome to the conversation. Thank you for literally outlining, what we've the only 3 real possibilities. Do you want to throw a 4th one in? The 49ers are going to cut Brandon Aiyuk? Like, it's literally been the same repurposed, I feel like I saw things.
Like ESPN NFL put out like a report, and it was the same thing that we've heard for the last 3 days, and it even sounds out of date. It's like, it's actually evolved beyond that, but you're still reporting on what we already knew. But
some people are still talking about Cleveland and New England, Brad.
How dare BA didn't accept that trade? It's like, why would BA accept that trade? Why would BA?
It's all about the money for Brandon Aiyuk. If that's the case, he would have already been in New England or been in terrible Cleveland. He
would have went deuces.
Right.
Frank May making 32.5.
Jacoby Brissett, pal. Respect the brisket, pal.
My bad, brisket. My bad. Jacoby Brissett out there.
Dude, 49ers media is making its way into the mainstream. So today on First Things First, Nick Wright talked about two prominent beat writers,
Oh, is this
and
what this is?
yeah, two prominent beat writers that they have contrasting styles. And and honestly, I implore anybody to go on Twitter and just watch and just make your own determination or whatever. But it's pretty cool that 49ers media is making its way out there. So shout out to those two guys.
No, I've talked about, I've talked about this for a long time. I feel like our ecosystem will be the ecosystem of every team, whether it's football, baseball, basketball. This is like, you hear about all the time, like in Silicon Valley, right? How innovative a place of that is. And like, a lot of crazy, companies have come out of there, like Google, Tesla, whatever, you name whatever companies that have come out of the Bay. It feels very similar for new media. It feels like a lot of the stuff that is happening within the 49ers community isn't mainstream yet, but it will be mainstream. Content creators. I saw Matt Miyoko made a YouTube page today. Shout out
Hell
Matty
yeah.
coming over.
Ian
So
Rappaport has a YouTube page
Ian
now, and he's like, "Oh,
Rappaport has a
he's
YouTube
like, like
page.
and subscribe to my YouTube page." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Really, dude?"
It like this is the ground floor. Like this is, this is the 49ers obviously have so much eyes on them that you can sustain that, but this market that we live in is really kind of the ground floor where everything's moving towards. So to see the 49ers, like we joke about practice reports, right, Jason? Like me and you, like for years, have joked about the contrasting reports from practice. That's why me and you, as much as we can, we don't report on practice if we're not there, because
100%.
I think both of you have trust issues based on conflicting reports. So you and I both trust, like we trust our eyes, like we know who we trust, and like we trust what we see. So if we're not there, we're just like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about it because
Yeah.
I'm not there. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if this context is right, if it's wrong, because it's proven to be right and wrong on multiple accounts, on multiple occasions across multiple years. So it's just funny that it's that conversation that we've joked about for a while now is now happening in the highest level of media. So
100%.
that's not a bad thing.
No. And Batman 29's comment, I might as well address this because I see this all the time. It says, Jason, how come you don't stream with Grant anymore? The craziest part about all this is that Grant and I are fine. We talk a lot, outside of YouTube and everything, right? I don't stream as much as I usually do, but there's no tension between Grant and I, like none, like zero, like absolutely zero. Like during the holidays, I'll send well wishes to him and his family. We talk like random texts and everything. Like if he sends a funny tweet, I respond to it. The reason that him and I aren't streaming have nothing to do with any sort of tension that anybody would like to believe is there. Grant is an instrumental part in how I got noticed, and I can never take that away from him. And he's still a good friend of mine. So, we're doing our own things, like he's doing his thing with his people. I'm doing my own thing. Like, that's it. It felt like there was a time for us to just everybody branch off and do their own thing. And that's kind of where it is. So I just want to make sure I address that one more time, just because I feel like it's been addressed, but I want to make sure that I don't want this to linger on anymore, because I have nothing bad to say about Grant, man, at all. Like, if anything, it's just all good things because he's a friend of mine.
That happened a while, like that
2 years ago.
Yeah,
2 years ago.
it's crazy.
Yeah. You remember Javon Kinlaw? That was 2 years. Like, come on.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Good times. Always something going on around these parts. I think Michael already knows before, but you already know the vibes. Grab your cookies on the way out. Appreciate everyone for tapping in. Make sure you go over, sub to Jason's channel, sub to my channel, all this stuff. I am not a member of Niners Nation. That is Jason, who is
need to be.
Niners.
need to be.
I don't write, dude. If I was to write, it takes me too long, and I have zero patience. My whole thing is turning over. Like I'm about turnover time. And for me, writing takes so much mental energy because I'm half dyslexic. At least I feel like I am. So I can write. I know I can write. It just takes me time. And I don't
I
have
think
that time.
I think you'd be better at it now because you're so good behind the mic now. And essentially all you're doing is transferring your normal thoughts about the team and
Right.
what you would say onto the page. So at
See, that's
times
not the
when
problem. It's the proofreading, it's the grammar, it's the punctuation,
oh,
it's the
that's what
spelling.
Grammarly's for. Literally, what? Well, all right. You use Grammarly. Grammarly puts you on, and they let you know, like, rephrase this, use this. This is what and it gives you like a few suggestions, and then you have an editor. But for the most part, the hard part is getting your thoughts out. And I think since you're so in lock with the team, that it would be easier than you would believe. So if I asked you right now, let's just say, like, as an exercise, tell me everything that we just said about the offensive line. You'd be able to type so quickly through that. You would be able to type so quickly through that because you've already just explained to me what you thought about the offensive line, about the depth, everything. Like, you'd already have all those thoughts there. Your hesitance would come into, is this grammatically correct? What's the punctuation? What should I be using? And that's what Grammarly is for. But other than that, you use your thoughts. So it's not as hard as you think, man.
Yeah, I just think I think I have such a full plate adding one more element of content because when I first started doing this full time in 2021, I was writing. Like, remember when we went to the Senior Bowl? Like,
Yep.
I would go back to my room and I would write articles, and I would go on live on Instagram, but that was really it. But I was really trying to focus on building my website and building that because I thought that's how I needed to do it. But until I realized that it was YouTube is what I needed to do, I took all of that energy that I was putting into my website and I just threw it into YouTube. I don't regret it. I definitely don't regret it. Hey, I'll say this. I'll say this. I need a managing editor I have a
That's what I
website.
have. KP.
Dormant.
Oh, you're looking for someone
If
to run.
anyone
Okay.
wants, first of all, I need someone who's experienced. I need someone who I don't have to watch over. But if you have experience as a managing editor and you want to run a site exactly how you want to run it, you have that opportunity. So I'm throwing it out there because I just don't have time for it. I just don't have time for it. But it's there. We have the vehicle to get eyes on your work. I just don't have the time to actually execute it. So throwing that out there. Any managing editors out there with experience, hit me up. See if we work something out. But I'm just throwing it out there. Why not? Yeah, that's about it. Anything else you got?
No, that's it. Let's get out of here before another topic brings us out.
Another 10 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. So, but
All
thank you guys for tuning in again. As always, the chat was live and you guys gave us good talking points. Again, there's no right, no wrong. We all have opinions. Some we feel strongly about, some we don't. But I'm just glad that everybody's still vibing with us and taking in, and joining in on the conversation. So shout out to everybody that was in here watching and everything. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. That's it for State of the Franchise. Jason Aponte, Brad Graham. Smash that like button, sub to both channels. We out. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.